All right. Hey, Raj, how are you?
Good, good. How you doing?
Doing excellent. Cool. So I first want to give a little introduction that you're a sales support engineer at Panasonic, but you've been Panasonic for 20 plus years, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So tell me a little bit about what you do over at Panasonic and how you've been involved with NDI since it started with Panasonic going back to 2017.
Yeah, so I started 23 years ago and started in service now in the sales, supporting all the new technologies, particularly 4 years back, NDI started, and we had to learn the NDI and the new tools that comes with it, and we adapted the NDI in the new products. So.
Very cool. Now, first, I want to let people know we have this little slide up here because we are actually using Microsoft Teams to bring you in remotely, and Microsoft Teams recently announced native NDI support. We're really excited about having that in our workflow, so I'll let people know that that's how we're doing it. But let's go to 2017. Panasonic decides they're going to go with NDI. They introduced 3 cameras with plans to go with 8 more. What was that like for you while Panasonic was announcing that? Because I'm sure it was one of those decisions that reverberated throughout the company. I mean, Panasonic is a giant, an electronics giant.
Yeah, it's not clear because your audio didn't come through clearly. So sorry about that. I didn't get the questions correctly.
Okay, I'll ask it again. In 2017, Panasonic decided to jump into NDI. They went all in, and I'm sure when that decision first hit, it reverberated through a company as big as Panasonic to be partnering with this upstart new tech company with this NDI technology that at that point no one really knew what it was.
Yeah, NDI started for us a new venue for the IP serial protocol we had before. Then we started IP protocol, and identifying the camera over the network was a challenge because we have a default IP address. We had an easy IP to find it. What NDI does is NDI make it very easy to identify a camera. You go and see the NDI tools, and it just shows up as a model number of the camera. That makes it very easy to connect.
Yeah, so NDI, we use this slide. We took it off of the Panasonic website. We are all in. You've got IP controllers. You just talked about the auto discovery. You've got redundancy, single cable connectivity. You know, with NDI, what we love about it is you can plug that Ethernet cable into the PTZ camera. The video comes from the camera into your mixer, but also the mixer gets the ability to control and to give tally to that camera. You get multicast and audio input, so very excited about that. Let's talk about now, it's a year later, it's 2018, and you guys decide that you're not just going to have PTZ cameras, you're actually going to work with new tech and come out with a mixer. It's a mixer with a control surface and a PTZ controller all in one. And it's actually got the heart of a TriCaster Mini in it. So talk about that product a little bit.
So Panasonic makes a switcher for a very long time. What unique about HLC100 is it's not only a switcher, but a PTZ controller. So it has a 3D control for pan, tilt, zoom, and iris and everything. Also preset buttons. So you can actually have a controller and a switcher combining it. It's an 8-input switcher. And it also does audio processing, audio mixings. Not only that, it will do streaming and recording. So you have the whole stream studio built into one box. And the idea behind HLC100 was if you don't have too many people to operate, as you know very well,
yep.
If you need a controller, you need a switcher, you need a recording for streaming, encoding, decoding. So all these boxes that you operate, it becomes very difficult. This makes it very easy. One box and does it all, basically.
Yeah, and we found this product has been a home run, especially in like the worship the worship vertical, because churches, they don't have a whole lot of volunteers, a whole lot of people to operate their shows. So now I use PTZ cameras. I use this box, and one volunteer can actually learn how to use this box and run an entire church that's a very high level production, including, you know, going to overflow rooms, streaming it live, just a phenomenal solution for worship.
Yeah, so worship, the interesting part about worship is they usually run by the volunteers. So to train them, volunteers, becomes a challenge. And this becomes very easy to set up. Once you set it up, all you have to do is ask the volunteer to press which button to press in order to do the streaming, in order to cut the package. Everything can be done much more easier. You can even title it. So that makes worshiper really beneficial for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we want to jump ahead another year. Now it's 2019, and you guys actually introduced cameras, camcorders, that had the ability to be upgraded to NDI HX, and that was remarkable. Now, the camera I'm pointing at right here that we use in our studio is a CX350, and I just want to say for the record, I thought we had a great camera in our studio before by another company. When we went with this camera, it just blew my doors away. It is a fantastic camera for studio use, outdoors. It's got great features just from a camcorder point of view, and then add the NDI so that we've got it going, you know, just by plugging into the network. Hey, there's a great picture. Hey, way to go with that. Adam, thanks for having that setup. That's the setup that I use in the studio right now. So I'm looking at that camera, and we have right behind that camera mounted a Atomos 19-inch monitor that I use as my reference monitor while we're doing the show, and so that I look like I'm looking at you and stuff like that. So let's talk about those cameras. We got the CX350 in 19, and then last year the compact CX10. This is great stuff.
So CX350's beauty of it is a camcorders, and again we were focused on the worshiper market also because of one reason. As you mentioned, NDI, we wanted to add it. And the reason for adding NDI is most worshippers already have the PTZ cameras, and they were controlling with the RP150 or RP120. So what we did with this is you can actually manage your CX350 using the RP150 controller also. So that's additional benefits. Now you don't need an additional controller to control the paint, the cameras, the CX350. You can actually operate your zoom and focus with the RP150 also with CX350. So that was a big advantage for us. And NDI made it very easy to stream and to control and to manage everything over the network.
Now, we didn't mention that, but the RP150 you're talking about is your standalone controller, your PTZ controller. That's part of your product line. So I was remiss, I probably should have put a slide up with that because those work with NDI as well. And I just think it's amazing that you guys had the forethought to say, we're gonna actually not just take the video from the camera in via NDI, but we're gonna give you control of it. So if you could just go over some of the features in a CX350 that could be controlled via NDI, via one of your mixers, one of your controllers.
So you can control over NDI. So for example, HLC100, you put it on CX350 on it, on the same network as NDI, it will show up as a 350 cameras in a switcher. So production unit, that makes it much easier to control, manage, paint, and now you have a handheld camera. The one caveat here is NDI works only NDI HX in HD only, and also it's only working currently with Ethernet because of the bandwidth limitation on a Wi-Fi.
Cool. So now let's jump ahead a little bit and talk about something that I don't think gets enough press, and that is when you guys went in with NDI, it's actually a firmware that can be loaded on a camera. So you have some PTZ cameras that come with NDI already loaded. Then you have some cameras that don't, so like the CX350 we mentioned, or the 150 PTZ camera that you see pictured here. Those you download the software. It's a $299 software, and that firmware now gives you full NDI with those cameras. But there's more, isn't there? You guys actually, there's a bunch of legacy cameras that go back even before 2017 that you can put that firmware on. Isn't that correct?
So we have a lot of installation of HE130 cameras, AW-HE130, and that 130 cameras customers already purchased, didn't have the NDI. What we work with the new tech is to upgrade the software on those cameras and purchase the license. After you upgrade the software, you purchase the license from the new tech for $300, and your older camera can be now NDI capable of it. And that's very easy process to do it through the scan converters of NDI tools in a camera. The only be aware of it that UE150 and others cameras requires a newest tool from new techs. You download it and then you can activate your license for NDI through the new tech tools.
Cool.
For $300, yes.
Yep. So I just want to talk about that a little bit. If you have a PTZ camera from Panasonic that does not have NDI and you want to add NDI, there's 3 places you can go to get it. Same price, $299. You can go through Panasonic's website, NewTek's website, or on the Video Guys website. We have links to that as well. Either way, you end up in the same place with the same software. And once again, all 3 sites give you the list of what software is available. If you go to the Panasonic website, you actually get a little pull down that shows you what's available. And I just want to let people know that there are certain versions in certain countries that are limited to stuff, but we're going to keep this conversation to the US. And the US, it's almost every PTZ camera in the current product line from Panasonic over the last 3 years. So that's really amazing. And for $299, you can light up a whole nother feature set through firmware. And as Raj said, that's very important. You do want to make sure you're using the latest version of NDI tools and NDI software from NewTek if you're going NDI. And that's a tech tip I have across the board. NewTek is constantly upgrading their software for these products, and you want to make sure you're on the latest versions for the best possible operation. So thanks for that tip, Raj. The next thing we want to talk about is a feature that Panasonic's had for a while, but now because it's available on cameras that can be NDI cameras, it's really exciting, and that is auto tracking. You guys have enabled auto tracking so that any, almost every camera that is available with NDI, you can also download the auto tracking software to be used. And if you're a school, you can still get 90 days free. Isn't that correct, Raj?
That is correct. That is correct. So right now there is a 90 days free trial on the auto tracking software. And the way it works is the SF100 is a single camera and a single laptop interface. So basically one-to-one interface. Application is installed on a laptop, and then you track a person's based on the profiles you put it into with the face profiles. And it tracks it based on any cameras that we made over last probably 5-6 years.
Yep.
So all those cameras can track the auto tracking. And then there is another version of SF200 that a lot of schools are purchasing because it has a server-based application. So you can have up to 4 cameras on one servers, and you can add the more and more servers if you wanted to do, say, 50 or 60 cameras to be controlled in each individual room. So the neat part about the 200 is basically you buy the 4 license, and license is based on the instance. So you can have any cameras in your campus that can connect to those server, and you can use the auto tracking software for that.
Yeah, and I know
that
there are
makes
a lot
it much easier.
We've got some colleges and universities that have rolled out PTZ cameras with this auto tracking 20, 30, 50 different lecture centers and classrooms. Now, one of the things I want to talk about this, and what were you going to say? I'm sorry. One of the things I want to talk about is that unlike some other tracking software that just basically figure out that a person is a person on here, Panasonic actually uses facial recognition software. So, you know, understand that it can actually figure out who the professor is or who it's going to track in the room, so it doesn't get caught tracking someone else who walks in front. And that's real cool, powerful technology, but I'm also going to say in the world we live in, Raj, it scares me a little bit, you know, but it is AI-based software that can do facial recognition. That's pretty powerful and pretty amazing that you're offering it for free for 90 days to basically anyone who owns a Panasonic PTZ camera.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing the way it recognized through the face, and then the COVID hits, and we have a now mask to cover the face. So we have to adapt it through the body types. And the way it works on a face recognition is an AI-based, artificial intelligence-based processing. So basically, if you have an NVIDIA card in the computers, it can actually identify the person's face much more clearly. But as you mentioned, facial recognition is a challenge now because of the mask. But we'll soon upgrade that software in, I think, December.
Awesome.
For that also.
Awesome. Now let's jump forward to this past May, and you guys introduce a whole new series of cameras, the UE100, that are 4K P60 Pro PTZ with full NDI and SRT, and they're under 10 grand, which is pretty amazing. Let's talk about those cameras a little bit, because that's really lifting the bar on what we're offering as far as NDI, SRT, PTZ goes.
So UE100,
yes.
So that is a new camera that has a similar feature like UE150. It is a 4K camera. It has a very smooth motion pencil systems, and it's very, very quiet. It's very wide. The neat part about it is the first camera, Panasonic camera in PTZ, is with the NDI native as well as NDI HX. So NDI native is both available in HD as well as 4K. So in 4K, it's about 200 megabits bandwidth. In HD, it's about 100 megabits bandwidth in NDI. And then NDI HX is, as you know, has a different bandwidth.
So this is full 4K over NDI.
Full 4K NDI bandwidth is available with this. Yes, correct.
Awesome. That's a really cool product. And that brings us to the next step, which is what's next. Now, this is the future segment.
It is available out of the box. So you don't have to activate license. It comes with it.
Right. It is a native NDI product. There's nothing extra to add because it's actually got hardware in it that's NDI.
Yes.
Cool.
And also the other neat part about that camera is there is an SRT built into it. SRT is a point-to-point connection-oriented protocol, and SRT stream is characterized by the transport of multiple data and control message with only one UDP connections. So SRT makes it easier for latency part.
Yep.
And it's guarantee the transmission over the public network. That's the big demand for a lot of networks to have a consistent connection over the public network. That's why SRT was important.
So I could have 4 or 5 of these deployed across the globe, and from a central place, not only can I get the video, I could control them completely via SRT, correct?
I can't hear your voice.
I was saying that with SRT, I could have 4 or 5 cameras, the UE150s deployed throughout the globe, and I could not only get the video, I could control them from one remote location.
Right.
Cool. Now this is the fun part where we talk about, what's next, what's the future. Now, before we start with the future questions, I have a specific question to you that came in, and that is the CX350 and CX10 support NDI HX. Is there any plan for those to be supporting NDI HX2 anytime in the near future?
Currently we just introduced the UE100, so I don't know what they're working on, and I can't technically tell anything, even if I know. But currently I don't know anything about what's in the future lies. But UE100 is just introduced last month, so it's been just released currently. So that's the newest product.
So we'll call that the future because it just got released.
Yeah, just that, yes. With the SRT and new protocols and new adoption of NDI. So all those things, new features are adapted in these new cameras. Basically.
Cool. So this is the part of the show we're starting to wrap up. So let's bring them up full screen. And Raj, it's your couple of minutes. You tell us anything you want about Panasonic, NDI, and your closing thoughts for the webinar.
I didn't hear the question, sorry.
I said the floor is yours. Give us your closing thoughts on NDI, Panasonic for the webinar.
Audio is missing.
All right. I'm going to apologize. I think we're losing them a little bit, so let's bring up the future shows next. And thank you, Raj, for coming on the show. We gave it our best shot. Let's bring this up full screen. There we go. Let's get the side panel off the screen and move it over.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. And we'll mute him.
Sorry for the technical difficulty on audio. So.
That's okay. We get bandwidth issues sometimes. So NDI November webinars. Raj, thank you so much for coming on the show. Today we learned a little bit about Panasonic and NDI and the new UE100. So we're real excited about that. I want to remind people the last two shows, Dr. Cross was on the show, an hour of NDI live streaming gold. We had Dan from Bird Dog on for about 45 minutes yesterday, adding a ton of great information for us about their product line and their products. Tomorrow, I'm going to have Shane from Wirecast on. We're not only going to talk about the NDI history of Wirecast, but we're going to go into making Wirecast in teams and how they work well together. And we're really excited about that because Shane's going to be running teams on a Wirecast gear from his location, and we're going to be bringing them in here. Next week, we have George from Epiphan talking about the Pearl 2 and how it supports NDI. We're going to have Will Waters from New Tech talking about where they're going with NDI, specifically on a product development level, history of the TriCasters and NDI. And then on the 12th, we have Paul Richards from PTZ Optics. He's going to be talking about how they're utilizing NDI with their PTZ cameras and their ePTZ cameras and their Zoom cameras. And then we're going to do our raffle. That's right. A free IP Pro NDI webcam from HuddleCam is going to be auctioned off, and we're very excited about that. So for everyone on the show, and for Raj, thank you very much for tuning in. Today's show was a spotlight on Panasonic. This is Gary from Video Guys. Like us on Facebook, YouTube, all the social media stuff. Share the love and keep watching our November and NDI November webinars. This is Gary from Video Guys. Peace.
Video Guys is available Monday through Friday. Give us a call at 1-800-323-2325. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay connected with all of our updates. And you can like us on Facebook. Keep an eye out for our live videos, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.